This is Brandon Jones with Pact Publishing. In this section, we are going to take a look at images. We'll start with an image overview and strategy. Then we'll do a hands-on example where we download an image from the web. Then we'll show how to display an image. With that, our application is mostly finished up, so we'll move on to a few finishing touches and then a wrap-up of this video course. Congratulations, you've made it to the final section of this video course. So let's get started with an image overview and strategy. In this video, we'll take a look at what do we need to display an image from the web, some classes required to obtain a bitmap from the network, and then some components we can use on the user interface, an image view and an image switcher. First of all, what do we need to do to show an image from the web? Well, first of all, we need to find a source with an appropriately sized image. Keep in mind that mobile devices can be used on carrier networks where some data overage charges may apply, or they could be used in a roaming manner if you're out of the country or away from your home carrier. So we want to make sure that we're sizing the image appropriately for the device that is going to display it. After we've found a source of appropriately sized images, next we'll open a connection to that image using an input stream. And then we can use a bitmap factory to turn that input stream into a bitmap object. Once we have the data into a bitmap object, we can easily show it in the user interface using an image view or something similar. So it will get a little bit tricky because we have to use a series of classes when we do this. So I've spelled out the classes here. First, we have some image source, which is accessible from the web. Not to worry, in our case, I have a series of 100 by 100 size thumbnails that we can use for Plant ID. Now, we might need something a little bit better in the production application because our image view is actually more like a 200 by 200, maybe even a bit bigger than that. And we don't want to scale up, especially when we're going by ID. But nonetheless, 100 by 100 is good enough for a little prototype demonstration that we'll do here. So we need the image source at a URL. We're going to create what's called a URL object out of that. From that URL object, we can get an input stream, which essentially is a stream of data that represents this image. In other words, take the image, decompose it to bytes, send those bytes across the network, and we can receive those bytes in an input stream. Now, there's a utility class called Bitmap Factory, which is really handy in this case, because it can take that input stream and it can create a bitmap object out of that stream. The reason why that bitmap object is important is that's what our image view, which is a UI element, a user interface element, that's what our image view wants to be able to display the image. It wants to have it in a bitmap form. So these sequence of steps will get us from an image on the web to an image that we can view in our application. Now, given that this is a flashcard app, we probably eventually want to source a few images locally from our device or have a way of caching it. We're not going to cover that in this section. We'll leave that up for some future development. In this section, we'll assume that we're online anytime we want to use the app, and we do want to think about how to handle exceptions or when things go wrong if we're not online. As a matter of fact, this is one of the things that we need to consider, what to do when things go wrong, as well as what happens if we're unable to receive the image. What if the image is too big? What if the image times out? So we want to think about all the things that could go wrong, and we want to make a high-quality app by covering for those scenarios. So perhaps we fall back to a default placeholder image in case we're unable to access the actual image. Just a few things to consider, especially when we're doing some kind of network operation, like pulling down an image. So, image view versus image switcher. We're going to use an image view in our app. An image view is really ideal if you want to show one image. An image switcher is a little bit nicer if you want to show multiple images because it allows you to transition between images, and it also uses what's called a recycler concept. So instead of creating a brand new user interface component every time we want to show an image, it can reuse the same user interface component and simply change the image that that user interface component is showing. So a recycler in general is an efficient way to switch an image or switch text on the Android screen without creating a whole bunch of new objects. So image switcher might be a good idea to move forward with in the future, especially if we want to provide alternate views of a plant that we're trying to identify. Kind of like if you buy shoes online, a lot of times you'll see an image switcher that shows you the bottom, the side, the back, the front, so on and so forth. That's something we'll eventually want to do. But for simplicity in this early step, we'll just use a plain old image view, which is really easy to just throw a bitmap at it and have that image view show it.